everyone, Amanda here, thanks for joining me. So today I'm doing the first page in my napkin journal, or a page in my napkin journal. I do have a playlist, napkin journaling with Amanda, and on there I've got an introductory video showing you how to make these inserts, and when we've done one, we're going to make a cover to put them in. So because this is going out around Easter time, I thought I'd do this lovely bunny rabbit. So I'm not 100% sure whether I will fast forward my video. It depends how long it takes, to be honest. And yeah, we'll see how we go. So this is a new thing for me. I'm hoping that some of you will come along and do one napkin page every Sunday with me. Okay, so these videos will go live every Sunday at 7 PM. We're on British summer time, so it's 7 PM when this will go live. Okay, I'll just take the part that I want, get them separated, and then we're off. Sometimes they come apart really easily, and sometimes they're a little bit slippery little suckers. There we go, that one's separated fairly easily. Now I really don't want to have mad straight edges, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to just rip a little bit so that I don't have harsh edges. Okay. I'm not worried if a small amount of the image gets ripped because I'm going to be blending it in with paints. Okay. Okay, so I decided to fast forward and do a voiceover because the video otherwise would have been about an hour long. So this process can take you a while, but it's all about having fun and experimenting and playing with your supplies. So the first important thing that you need to do is gesso your page. Now I'm not an expert at anything, but I just know from experience of doing it myself that if you gesso the page, it seals it, stops things seeping through to the other side, and helps all of your mediums stick nicely to your page, and you just get a better result. Otherwise everything soaks into the paper and things don't move and watercolours don't run nicely and dilute nicely and things like that. So do that and then make sure it's fully dry. Then I'm using a gel matte medium, and I'm going to put a thin layer around the area where I'm going to put the napkin, and then lay the napkin on and smooth it over as best you can. Don't worry too much if you get wrinkles, it's just added texture. Then go over the top gently, use a nice soft clean brush, that helps so that you don't rip your napkin, and then smooth it back out. Cover it totally with the gel medium, and then once that's dried, then that's sealed, so it will protect your napkin, so those colours will stay as they are, and if you put something on that you don't like, you can wipe it off, and it'll stop the napkin going soggy if you were to use sprays or watercolours, etc. I think that looks really nice. There we go, we're done. Oh, I'm only kidding. But how nice does that look? And that's because it's a napkin with a white background, so automatically blends nicely into your page. So I'm just picking some acrylic paints here to start and create a nice border to my page. These are Cheap and Cheerful acrylic paints from the range in the UK, and they are, I think, what are they called? Artist. I think they're like £1. They're fine for, you know, this kind of thing, for just playing. Obviously the more you spend on supplies with paints and things like that, then the better the pigment will be and the more vibrant the colours. But for playing and experimenting, you don't need to buy expensive products. These are fine, they're really, really nice actually. They've turned out quite nice. So I'm using a nice lilac first, and then I move on to a teal colour. So I've just rolled myself across my craft room and had a quick look, and the brand is called Art Studio. That's the name of the acrylic paints from the range. As I say, they're like £1 a bottle, so you can pick yourself up quite a few different colours for not a great deal of money, and you only need a little bit. I always put way too much on my desk, way too much. You only need a little bit. So here I'm using some sea sponges that I did get from my local art shop in the town where I live, and they're really lovely and soft. They're proper sea sponges, and it just gives you a nice finish and helps you blend the paint in when you use the sea sponges. And I like to have where I'm doing things with my hands rather than using paintbrushes. Sometimes I'll even just use my hands and my fingers to blend the paint in. So now I'm using the gouache or gouache or whatever you want to call it, and it's a little bit like white acrylic paint, except it's it dries matte, whereas acrylic paint can sometimes have a bit of a gloss to it, and also when you add it, it's more I can't think of the correct term, but you can see through better. And so it gives you a more of a blended, dreamy kind of a look. It's lovely stuff. I always water it down a little bit before you use it to help get that blended look, and then whatever's underneath you'll still be able to see it. So it's not as heavy as using gesso, or I suppose you could water down some acrylic paint, white acrylic paint, but this is nice stuff to play with. So now I've picked a stencil, and I'm using this one by Sam Poole. It's called Trellis something, I can't remember. And I'm using modelling paste. So when you're stenciling, make sure you use modelling paste, not texture paste, because it will seep underneath your stencil and be a mushy mess, which is what I did earlier on in the week with another project. So I'm just adding this onto the two corners with this lovely tool, little kind of what are they called, palette knife type thing, and it really does help to have that. It's nice and flexible and but sturdy at the same time, so it just gives you good results. They're not expensive, so it's worth picking one up. That I do find that the metal ones are a lot better. You get better results than the plastic ones that you can get. So sometimes it's worth saving your pennies and getting the nicer supplies rather than always buying the cheap ones. So that is one tool that I would recommend. So I quite like it as it is. But we're going to add some more colour, although I am going to do one day where we don't add loads of colour, because I quite like the modelling paste just white as it is. But yeah, we're going to add some more colour to try and add a bit of depth, and so that the eyes drawn to the middle. If you add colour to the outer edges of the paper and have the central part lighter, it's meant to draw your eye in. When you're new, it can be harder than it looks, but it's fun, and so you just keep going, keep adding layers on, drying it in between. You must make sure that the modelling paste is fully dry before you add any water on it, and if you don't do that, you'll end up where your modelling paste will just go to mush, and you'll lose the shape and the form of it. And like I say, I'm not an expert, I just know because I've done it myself. So I'm using the Inktense paint blocks. They're absolutely fantastic. They're beautiful because they are watercolour, so they react with water, but normal watercolours go quite subtle when you add water to them. These, when you add water to them, they just stay strong. They're beautiful. So yeah, I'm trying to go heavier in the corners and keep adding my water and just building layers up until I'm happy with the look. So a spray bottle, they're like £1 for a really good one from an art shop. I think I paid £1 for mine, and it's good because it's got a fine mist nozzle on it, which does make a difference. I've bought cheap ones from B&M, and this one's better because it's a mist. It's not just a water sprayer, it's a mist, and it does help, and it wasn't expensive. So there's another tip. So I'm just making sure it's fully dry because I've been adding a lot of water to activate those watercolours. But I don't. What you don't want is you don't want your colours mixing, and you know, making colours that you don't want. I want those colours to stay as they are. I don't want to end up with mixed colours. I want them to blend, but I don't want to create new colours. I don't want to end up with mud. That is the main thing we want to avoid. So by drying really well in between, you can avoid that. And the ink tints are really good because whilst they're water reactive, once they've dried, that's it. They don't react with water the second time. So you can build layers up, you can add different colours, and if you dry in between and set them, it's permanent. So there's no way that you're going to end up with a mud colour. It's just not going to happen with these, and that is why I love them. They aren't the cheapest thing, those aren't. I will say I got mine at a bargain price. I was very lucky. I actually bought mine pre-loved, second hand. So I got them at a fraction of the cost of the, you know, full price, full retail, as it were. So again, fully drying, lots and lots of drying. It's so important to dry in between. So now I'm trying to use up some of the paint that I've daubed all over my desk. So I'm using some of that white gouache, and doing some stenciling. And stenciling with paint can be sometimes not always successful. So what I find is using the Ranger cut and dry foam really does help. It really works. I don't know why. I'm not, you know, fully knowledgeable. I just know it works, and I know it works because a lady that I used to watch, who did mixed media for a long time on YouTube, called Rachel, used to use it, and so I followed her lead, and it genuinely does work. So there you go. So now I'm going to stamp a sentiment. You don't have to put a sentiment on a journal page, but I don't know, for some reason it just seems to finish it off. So I'm stamping just a generic one. Follow your dreams. I think it works for just about anything. I stamped it twice because the first time I pressed on a little bit hard, and with these cheaper stamps, this is one that I got free in a magazine. If you press too hard on those silicone stamps, you're squashing the image, and so then you're not getting a sharp you know, a sharp stamp. So I did it again and didn't press on as hard. You don't need to press on hard. I'm edging with archival ink because I don't want to use distress inks, because I don't want anything to react with any of my vibrant colours there and end up with like black or brown or anything. And distress inks are water reactive and not permanent, so I'm only using things on here that are permanent. That way I know that the colours aren't going to mix together. Okay, so I'm stamping these little tiny flowers everywhere as well, just for a little bit extra, and then I'm going to colour them in a moment with some more ink tints, and I'm going to use the pencils. So I'm adding on my sentiment using the gel medium. Follow your dreams. So it's starting. I'm happy with how it's coming together, but it is very much kind of a just keep going, trust the process, just keep going until you're happy with what you've got. And if something happens and it goes wrong, there's always a way of rectifying it. And we get a good example here because for some reason those larger flowers that I've stamped, as I'm adding my water to the Inktense pencil, the water reacts with that gouache underneath, and I end up with like a bit of a mushy mess there and not the vibrant purple that I want. And it also seems to interfere with the archival ink, which is quite bizarre because it's a permanent ink. But I find a way of rectifying it, and I dry it off, repaint it, make sure it's completely dry, and then I restamp over the top very carefully, and that rectifies that little kind of error. There's always a way, you know, and if something happens really bad, worst case scenario, you can gesso over it and start again. So here I'm using a white gel pen. Oh, it's a paint pen. I can't remember what it's called. And that just makes those flowers pop a little bit, adding that to the centre. So making sure it's all dry so I don't, you know, smudge it all with my elbows. Drawing around the sentiments with the Inktense pencil again, and then I'm using a Skinner tipped, well, I'm going to do in a minute, there yet, a skinny tipped aqua painter to activate that crayon, and you'll just see that colour just explode. There you go, look at that, and that is what they do. They're amazing, absolutely love them. I could play with Inktense products all day long. They're fabulous, really pretty. There we go. So then all that's really left to do is go around the edge and try and make the outer edge a little bit darker, and adding a bit more of the green colour. Then I'm going to dry it, and then we're going to edge it all with the archival ink. Again, I'm choosing that as opposed to Distress ink because I don't want it to seep into my modelling paste or any of my other colours and react with it. The archival is permanent, so it won't react, and once it's dry, it's permanent. There's no way it's going to mush or seep into my other colours and mess about with them. So there we go, we're done. Hope you like that. I'll see you again next Sunday.